Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This evening's topic, I'm going to talk about the symptoms of a manic episode. So, what is a manic episode? Basically, a manic episode is not a disorder in and of itself, but it is rather diagnosed as part of a condition called bipolar disorder. Now, a manic episode is a mood state characterized by a period of at least 1 week where an elevated, expansive, or unusual irritable mood exists. Now, person experiencing a manic episode is usually engaged in significant goal-directed activity beyond their normal activities. People describe a manic mood as a feeling that is very euphoric. And when something is euphoric, that means you feel like you are on top of the world and you're able to accomplish anything. The feeling is like extreme optimism, but you could be on steroids or some other drug that is giving you a burst of energy. Now, sometimes the manic mood is more irritable than it is elevated, especially if the person's wishes are curtailed and or denied together. Often a person in the midst of a mania will engage in multiple projects at the same time, but with little premeditation or thought that go into them, and at the end of the day, when it comes to completing the projects, they don't get any of them done. It's like having a jack of all trades and you master nothing. So in other words, you work hard doing no work. They may work on these projects all hours of the day with little regard for sleep or rest. Now, a person's change in mood is typically associated with manic systems that should be observable by others. And I'm talking about the individual's friends or family and other loved ones, and must be uncharacteristic of the individual's usual state or behavior. Now, in other words, they're acting in a way that is not typical of who they really are, and other people can recognize it. Now, the manic feelings the person experiences should be severe enough to cause difficulty or impairment in their ability to function at work, with their friends, family, and or at school, and of course other important areas of their life. Now, symptoms also cannot be the result of substance use, such as alcohol, drugs, or any medications, or caused by a general medical condition. Now, in order to be diagnosed, 3 or more of the following symptoms must be present. Of course, the symptoms that I'm talking about that expose a manic episode are inflated self-esteem or grandiosity, decreased need for sleep, you're more talkative than usual, or there's pressure to keep talking, a flight of ideas that are basically subjective, and you have racing thoughts. Attention is usually drawn to unimportant or irrelevant items, increase in goal-directed activity, or psychomotor agitation. There's also an excessive involvement in pleasurable activities that have a high potential for painful consequences. Now, when it comes to self-esteem, this is what really makes the ingredient for mania relevant. It's, of course, increased self-esteem, because it's typically present, ranging from uncritical self-confidence to marked grandiosity, and may reach delusional proportions. Now, individuals may give advice on matters that they basically have no knowledge of. Despite lack of particular experience or talent, the individual may embark on writing a novel or composing a symphony, or seek publicity for some impractical invention. Now, grandiose delusions are basically common. Now, almost invariably, there is a decreased need for sleep. The person usually awakens for hours earlier than usual, feeling full of energy. When sleep disturbance is severe, the person may go for days without sleep and yet not feel tired. Now, manic speech, however, is typically pressured, loud, rapid, and difficult to interrupt, because individuals may talk nonstop, sometimes for hours on end, without regards for others' wishes to communicate. Now, speech is sometimes characterized by joking, punning, and amusing irrelevancies. Now, the individual may become very theatrical with dramatic mannerisms and singing. sounds rather than meaningful conception or conceptual relationships that may govern word choice. Now, if a person's mood is more irritable than expansive, speech may be marked by complaints, hostile comments, or angry tirades. Now, the individual's thoughts may race often at a rate faster than can be articulated. Now, some individuals with manic episodes report that this experience resembles watching 2 or 3 television programs at the same time, or let's use the word simultaneously. Frequently, there is a flight of ideas evidenced by a nearly continuous flow of accelerated speech with abrupt changes from one topic to another. For example, a person could be talking about a potential business deal to sell computers. Then a person may shift to discussing basically a minute in detail about the history of the computer chip, the Industrial Revolution, and or applied mathematics, something that doesn't have anything to deal with the topic at hand. Now, when flights of ideas become severe, speech may become disorganized and incoherent. Now, a person in a manic episode may easily lose attention. Distractibility is evidenced by an inability to screen out irrelevant external stimuli. There may be a reduced ability to differentiate between thoughts that are germane to the topic and thoughts that are only slightly relevant or clearly irrelevant. The increase in goal-directed activity often involves excessive planning of and excessive participation in multiple activities. Now, increased sex drive, fantasies, and behavior are often present as well. Now, the person may simultaneously take on multiple new business ventures without regard for the apparent risk or the need to complete each venture satisfactorily. Now, almost invariably, there is increased sociability without regard to the intrusive, domineering, and demanding nature of these interactions. Now, individuals may display psychomotor, or psychomotor, however you want to pronounce it. I call it psychomotor, agitation or restlessness by pacing or by holding multiple conversations simultaneously. Now, some individuals write a torrent of letters on many different topics to friends, public figures, or media. The word is psychomotor, and I apologize. I'm the one who wrote all of this, and at that point I couldn't read my own writing, but you get the point. Expansiveness, unwarranted optimism, grandiosity, and poor judgment often lead to imprudent involvement in pleasurable activities, such as, of course, buying sprees, reckless driving, foolish business investments, and sexual behavior that's unusual for the person, even though these activities are likely to have painful consequences. The individual may purchase many unneeded items. Again, they become compulsive, and I did a video on compulsive shopping. A person may go out and buy 20 pairs of shoes and expensive antiques. In other words, these are items that they really don't need. Now, without the money, however, they can't pay for them, right? That's usually what happens. They're drawn into this compulsivity that they can't finish. It's like a project that you begin and you never get it done. Why? Because you didn't have any thought of why you wanted to do it. You just wanted to do it. Well, that's why the individual may purchase unneeded items. It's just like that project. But how are you going to do it without money to purchase these items? Well, if you have a credit card, that's how you're going to do it. And this is indeed what happens when individuals do something that is very desperate and compulsive. And this is why being manic, you have a rush. Because you don't think about what you're doing, you just go do it. It is very impulsive and it's dangerous types of thinking, or a dangerous type of thinking. Now, unusual sexual behavior also may include infidelity and indiscriminate sexual encounters with strangers. Now, that being said, when I did a video on depression again is when I talked about all of the lows. So when I do mania or being manic, that's when everything is at the top of the world. Now, I could link both items together because they're basically the same, but on opposite sides of the same coin. Both of these characteristics, and you can call them disorders, are based on the mood. But the difference is one is at the high and one is at the low. And generally, what happens with both of these mood disorders, that's what they are, they will lead you to stress, and they will lead you one way or another. Because at one point, you're getting a high rush, and at the other point, you're getting a low rush. That's why it's part of a bipolar disorder. And everybody knows what a bipolar disorder is. That's when you have two different personalities. Well, that's what happens when you engage yourself in being a manic. That's why you ever hear the term, or you hear the term manic depressive. That's what it is. Because at one point, you're up here, and then one point, you're down here. And at the end of the day, it can lead to stress. That stress can lead to binge eating, which is going to cause more overweight or obesity, which in fact will go to diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and from there, you got one place to go. It's called death inside that casket. You'll be digging daisies. You don't want to go there. That's why you need to take time and understand mental disorders. Now, I will put this out to you. I'm not a doctor. I'm a civil engineer. I don't have any interest in practicing medicine, but I do have interest in these mental disorders. And these mental disorders are very important because they are the downfall of what's going on in today's society. This is what's happened with the free speech. Look at Charlottesville. You have two groups. And it's funny with these two groups, they're on opposite sides of the same coin, both fighting for free speech. But if you look at both of them, they were both driven high. They went out, had this confrontation, but they didn't think of the consequences that were going to take place. They just thought, well, I'm going to get my point across, and I'm going to try to silence the other side. Well, what happened? Young lady got killed because somebody was thoughtless and ran right over her with a car. Didn't have to happen. But that's what happens when you get high in your feelings. And when you are having a manic episode, your thoughts are always racing. This is why, being in that predicament, you must take time to settle down. Now I'm going to go off topic a little bit and talk about free speech. Because this is what people don't understand about free speech. If you are really an advocate of free speech, then you are going to believe in speech that you don't agree with. Now, I'm not a follower of the Ku Klux Klan, nor do I disagree with what they say. Now, some people may thumb down this video. Who cares? But this is a fact. If you believe in free speech, you believe in speech that you don't agree with. That's free speech. Now, here on YouTube, yeah, you've had black women talk about black men and vice versa. I don't have to agree with what you say. But I do believe that you should have free speech. If it's just speech that I agree with, then that's censorship. I don't believe in censorship. But that's what the left wants in this country. That's why I really don't care about all these Confederate statues around here. I'm 52 years old. It doesn't do any good to take them down anyway. You're still not going to erase history. And the reason why I brought this up, because you have a lot of individuals who have, in my humble opinion, their thoughts are running rapid, thinking that when they do this, they've accomplished something. Well, they didn't accomplish anything, because history is going to be there. That's like if you go get drunk, if you have a problem, you didn't erase the problem, it's still there. What you have is a feeling of being high, that you can do anything. And that's what these people did in Charlottesville. They thought that they could accomplish something, but they really didn't. They just had a clash. That's why I brought the Charlottesville incident up, to give you an example of how being a manic with the symptoms had on these people that were going at one another about free speech. And neither side accomplished anything except killed one person, and that person didn't have to die. And when I talk about mental issues right here on YouTube, you got to pay attention, because the mental issues are serious. There are many of us who have mental issues and we don't know it. That's why I do my best to study the material before I present it. Because with these mental issues, I even look at myself, and I had a little bit of them, and I didn't know it. But once you get down and start to educate yourself and become familiar with the information, you don't have to be a doctor to diagnose what people's symptoms are. If you look at the information very thoroughly, you find out who a person is right off the bat. It's not hard. And I can tell you, in this Western society, what I see more than anything is stress, depression, and mania going on. Why? Because I just believe that here in the 21st century, number one, we're not paying attention to each other. We're paying more attention to our cell phones, our computers, and social media, and we're actually living through that, which that's not helping us communicate with each other as a person. So we have a hard time face to face when it comes to collaboration or conversation. Now, at the end of the day, it's not helping us at all. It's making us more or less subservient to the technology. That's why I don't like when people text, because texting is not personable. And usually people who have some type of episode, they're constantly up looking at their social media, wondering who's going to say something about them so they can revert back. That's why we have all the beefing on YouTube. Because you have a number of people who have manic episodes and they get very emotional. And emotion is dangerous. Because a lot of these disorders that I do lead to some type of emotional outburst like anger. And then what happens after that? You become very destructive and violent because you have a temper since you don't like something. Or you become very immature in thought when somebody critiques you on your behavior. And what you want to do, you want to go into an emotional rage to try to destroy the other person, which to me, all you're doing is harming yourself. So when somebody is very manic, they're driven through their thoughts. And sometimes their thoughts are impulsive and or irrational. In fact, just as I mentioned before, when you are doing projects and you get none of them done because you didn't have any premeditation or thought of how you wanted to get the project done, you become irritable. You feel like you've accomplished nothing. And the truth is, you didn't accomplish anything. You just wasted a lot of time. So, going back, when a person has mania, they have an included mood, an inflated self-esteem, decreased need for sleep, racing thoughts, difficulty maintaining attention, increase in goal-directed activity, and excessive involvement in pleasurable activities. And what happens with these symptoms of being a manic? Well, the manic symptoms significantly impact how a person functions in their daily lives. So if you have one of these symptoms, the best bet is to seek help. Because you don't have to take it from me. But I will tell you, mental and psychological and health conditions are real. And they'll kill you just like anybody else. With a gun will kill you. Or a war. These are even worse. Because you're going through pain and suffering. And that's the worst way to die. But if you want to function properly, you got to admit that you have a problem. Too many of us deny that we have a problem, and we blame the other person for telling us we have a problem. Or we deny again that we have a problem. Face the truth. If you have a problem, particularly a serious problem like being a manic, it is time to get help. Because at the end of the day, it's not just your life you save others. Why? Because if you get emotional from being a manic, you're going to do something without thinking of the consequences, like commit an act of violence, like a rape or a murder. And you may do something that's going to hurt yourself, like suicide. So what I'm trying to tell you is, be real about who you are. Assess yourself before you assess others. Because as human beings, I guarantee, we all have some symptoms of mental disorders. If you don't believe me, you go check out all of my videos, especially one I did on the 10 types of personality disorders. I guarantee all of us fits in one of those categories, including myself. But again, at the end of the day, mental disorders are real, but if you treat them properly, you can function fully in everyday life. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this evening, Sunday, August 20th, 2017. You can tune into the 401 Talk Zone radio show every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest call-in number is 215-383-5785. And if you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I don't engage in debates, emotion, or controversial issues, nor do I participate in drama and or unnecessary bickering. What I do on my channel is teach, and I give you the information about issues that are going to help you survive in the real world. Because if you don't have that education and that knowledge, you're not going to succeed in the real world. And you're going to become manic or be in depression. Because the information that I give you is realistic but positive. And also, you can catch me on Google Hangouts with Brother Guy King. I was on one today. I posted it on my Facebook page. I posted last week's on my Facebook page where we talk more about social issues. So check that out. There's some other brothers on there like Black Ram, Negro Ninja, Hardcore Tito was on it. A whole host of heavy hitters that I deal with right here on YouTube. And just remember, when you have knowledge, you have power. So if you have a business, a topic, or a new YouTube channel that you would like for me to discuss on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. And if you have a comment, please leave your comment in the comment section. Make sure it's under the video. Also, your comments must be pithy. No bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering if you wish to opine. Now that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other. Have a wonderful and blessed evening. Good night.